My name is David Lewis, Full-Blood Creek of the Muscogee Nation. We're located in Oklahoma. I was born and raised there. I have a college degree in human resources, and I also have a license to work on airframe and power plant. But I was born into traditional medicine, which is my profession today. But I am also on the National Council of the Creek Nation, which makes the law for our people. And it is a pleasure to come down here to talk to Dr. Jordan's class again. The question that I'm mostly asked is, what is Indian medicine? Combination of three things. The number one is the sacred words that we have, which was either handed down or revealed by visions. And the second one is the herbs that we use. I do not let anybody go and find plants for me or even dig anything for me, because I do my own work. I do not believe in somebody else handling the herbs that I will use in the future, or even at the time that I go out and look for these. It's usually on emergency cases. And I usually dig them to carry me over through the winter, and I usually run out. But I do not let anybody handle any things that I work with. And then number three is that we have to have a firm believer of what we've got. I've always told the client that if they don't believe in our ways, that it's a waste of their time and my time, because it will not work. The sacred words that have been given, it's either inherent, but it's also alive. That's something we can't get around. If you have any doubts about the medicine that we have, we can do everything that we can to try to help a person, but they could kill it in a minute with their disbelief. In our tribe, we have three types of medicine people. And the number one is the main medicine man. He is considered the highest in status among the Creek people. It could be either a man or it could be a woman. We have a lot of respect for our medicine people, but a woman, we've always kind of looked up to them. We've always felt that they seem to have the more power than the men, but it's not so, but the man will look up to a woman in that respect. A child is chosen at an early age. The reason that we choose the candidates to which to follow in our step is that it is a lot easier to teach them when they're small. I will use myself an example after a while, the type of training that I went through. But the child that is chosen is usually watched. And as the child is developing, he is tutored or she is tutored. but they're also disciplined. They are very, very strict with the person that they work with. It has to be. It has to be right, or it'll never work. So everything that the medicine people do has to be exact. Even the chants that we have, that's been handed down for hundreds of years, those words are still exactly the way it was given. That's why it works today. It works today. I mean, the people think that through the years things have changed, and it has. But the words we use and the herbs we use has never changed. That's why it's very effective. It works. That baffled many specialists in medical field. There are many stories told about how we train our medicine people. I normally don't make a comment on a person that's saying, well, we had so many in our family and we train him. Sometimes include the nephews. But there is no medicine school. When you're selecting a the main medicine man, it only can select one person. And that one person will carry on from their family side and usually inherit it through family. But there is a provision in there that we could also select somebody else if they qualify of what we're looking for. The qualities that we look for, the person that we're selecting: good temperament, prone to fairness, a good judgment, and a seriousness and exceptional ability to learn and to understand. A child that has been chosen in this category is generally gifted. They have some ability to be psychic in some form. The people that has this type of ability is, a child is usually born with that ability. But they also learn from the people that are teaching these child, or the one that they have chosen. They learn the one way that the family carries on for years, hundreds of years. The people that, the chosen one that has these type of ability, the mystic power, which we call Awala, which means that the psychic, they have ability to see what's ahead and what went wrong yesterday. They have that ability. And then the other one, it's what we call Kitha. Now that means the one who knows. That does not have to be inherited or born with it. They can learn from their teacher. They accompany the person that are teaching them, that they see the symptoms. They see the type of medicine that was dug and used for that particular sickness. He is always right there to hear the chants. It is not sung directly for that boy, but he does listen in. So that's how he learned. And when the people talk about Keitha in our tribe, they're usually talking about somebody that knows and has experience. And now we have the second medicine person, which we call carrier. A carrier is a person that seeks the knowledge for their own interests from another medicine man that is willing to share some of the knowledge that he has. But they may also possess the mystic power, just as a main medicine man. A carrier does not have to be initiated. A carrier can be a learner or a disciple of a main medicine man. But we expect a carrier. If I was teaching one, I would expect that person to live as pure as possible. For we try to leave all the negative things away from what we do. That is to keep our medicine strong. We do not look for anything in negative in a person, but we only try to see the good side of each individual. That is our way of life. We do not look for anything negative in any person. Then we have a specialist, the number 3, we call specialists. The specialist here is held by men only. The knowledge he has affects the ceremonial ground that we have and the people that are associated with that particular ground. It is either inherited through the family, or he can be selected by the ground. He has to know the songs that pertains to that place, to the ground, the rituals. The laws that have been put down, how the ground is supposed to be run, has been passed down on to him, and he carry out his work just like the main medicine people do. He can also be a carrier. A lot of them are carriers. But they cannot never be a main medicine person or a medicine man. Now, I will give you a little bit of background on myself today. The selection of the main medicine man. I will tell you the experience that I went through and how my family selected me. It was already had an understanding with my grandmother that my father would be the one to initiate me, and I would carry on from that side of that family. But my grandmother said that she could not find a candidate to carry on from my mother's side, that she was already getting old, and there was no way that she would ever find replacement for her. So the unusual thing happened in our family, that I was to be initiated by my dad and my grandmother that raised me. By doing that, I learned two different chants. I learned the chants that my dad had been given to him by his great-grandfather. My great-grandfather was Jackson Lewis, which was one of the chief informant for Swanton back in 1800s. My grandmother was to give me, well, she was the one that delivered me. But they were prepared to see if I was a right candidate to even be one. So the thing they had to do was they had to make medicine. They had to see if I would drink the medicine they were giving me. That was the first step. I've been told that I had no problem drinking that medicine when they first offered to me after just a few seconds after I was born. But I was quickly washed down with the medicine that was made. The first step that I was putting, when I drank that medicine, that was to see what kind of person that I would be 50, 60 years away. And they immediately following that, I was washed down with another medicine. But that was to work on my motor system, that I would learn quickly and to never forget what was ahead of me, that the thing that they were going to teach me. That's why I say the words that we've learned many years ago we'd never forget. It's hard to believe from the standpoint of some of the scholars, but I live this every day, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. There are some words that I have never used over 20, 30 years. Sometime I'm called on and I will go back. Those words come to me just like the day that I was taught when I was a little kid, as a child. That's why they had to work on our motor system, that we would learn quickly and never forget. Now, I will tell you a little bit about a training. As I began to walk, my grandmother usually was the one that They kind of took over the whole thing. The women like to dominate sometimes, and she was one of them. But she was a good teacher. She was good. She knew what she was doing. That everything that she touched and every root that she dug, she would always say, Hiliswa, which means medicine. And I know she used to smile and said, the first word she ever learned, he said, it wasn't mom and dad. The first word she ever said was Hiliswa. Because that's all I heard throughout my life when I was young. Everything that she used, the flowers in bloom, the medicine in bloom, she touch it, she slap it. I said, it's medicine. She would pick one, she'd smell it. I would imitate her. I know what they smell like. You can be blindfolded and they can hand you one, and you can tell them what kind of plant that they've got. But then she would go out and dig. I've always remembered that she had an apron on. She would wipe it off and she would chew it. And I did the same thing. I was getting the taste of what it tastes like. She would smell it. I did the same thing. So you can tell by the way it smells. Or you can chew it and tell you what root they are by the taste. I know that we used to go out and go farther away from the house. The plants were, plentiful back then. They're very hard to come by now. It's very, very hard to find them. But we used to go way off, and she would start digging roots. And then as we slowly came back towards the house, it would be getting late. But at one time I asked her, I said, why don't we just get the roots from the plant that we're looking for right close to the house? And she said, the reason I do this is that you're full of energy when we first start out. But as you begin to tire, he said, we're almost back home then. And I once asked her, well, how did you know I would dig? Help you dig these? Because I used to have my own little tool. She'd dig, I dug right beside her. And she said, very simple. He said, kids like dirt. He said, I know you would dig. And then she would wash them off. And she said that same thing. He said, you like water. He said, I know you'd wash them off. So that's why I said I had a good teacher. She knew what she was doing. She was very patient. She was the one that initiated me first into the same class that she was in as a main medicine person. I'll tell you a little bit about the initiation. She took me to running water. And we had 4 rocks. We waded out to the middle. She had a gourd of something like this right here, a big one and a smaller one. There was medicine in that. She handed me a rock and said, this is for your ability to heal. And she asked me to embed it in the stream. I'd go down, put it in the sand, I'd come up. When I come up, she had the medicine and she would pour it on me. When the 4th time was over, she was through. She held her gourd up, facing the east. She said that she had carried out what she was supposed to do, and the power was within this little man. While she was holding the gourds up like that in the air, the both of them popped. I mean, just like it splattered everywhere. And she threw it in the water. And she turned around and looked at me. He said, "This is your day." And she walked out on the bank and she started home. It was unusual because I was only 6.5 years old at that time. But before the initiation ever took place, the story, the origin of our medicine is learned. You have to know how certain plants begin to grow on this earth. You had to know how we got this is known as a red root, Muscogee, how this began to grow. And this is American ginseng, what you all would call, we call it Hutke. We had to know how this began to grow, where it came from, and how and why it began to grow. Those are the things that you learn before the initiation took place. So at 6.5 years old, if you could tell a story that was told, you learned you did something. But that's why that the day that I was born, they were washing me down with that medicine to see that I would learn and never forget. But as she was walking back towards the house, I came out on the bank and I started to go home. I heard a voice said, "Come here." I turned around, looked around, but I went towards the way the sound came from. I went a little ways, looked around, there was nobody there. There were some trees there, but they weren't big. But there was nobody behind that tree. So I turned around and started to go back, and then it said, "Come over here." So I went further east. But I didn't see anybody there, but I came up on a big flat rock. It was a big rock at one time. Right in the middle of that rock was a little cylinder cut, all about the size, about 6 inches deep. Looked like an ice cream cone. But there was water and the medicine in that. So I jumped up on the rock, and kids are curious anyway, so I reached down in there and I took a red root out. I knew what red roots are, so I chewed on it a while and I stuck it back in. But I started to get off of there. I was going to jump off, but they said, "No, wash with it." That was the third time I heard that voice. He said, "Wash with it." My hand's so small, it just went in that little cylinder cut rock there. And I did. When we tell them wash with it, we normally just mean the face and the head, not the rest of the body. So I did. And I jumped off. I didn't hear any more voice, so I jumped off the rock. I don't know why I turned around towards that rock, but I did. But then I heard the rock begin to crack. From one corner to the other, the rock itself split right into a big rock. Everything that was in that, the little cylinder cut, all spilled out. Sometimes I think back, even now, I kind of relive my life, go back what took place yesterday. That everything that was used during the initiation was destroyed by unknown power that even I couldn't explain. For many years I've said that I would chisel that rock down and take it home. I haven't done it yet. I've had camera with me that I would take a picture of it. I didn't do it. In fact, I never did take a picture of it. Till Doc Jordan I showed her the rock. I said, this is the rock that I've been talking about. And she took a picture of it. So everything that ever been used during the initiation was destroyed. Now, my dad also initiated me. It was during the summer when my grandmother initiated me. She had been initiated during the winter time in her when she was little. So she had to initiate me the opposite from hers during the warm weather. My dad had been initiated during the summer, so he had to initiate me during the winter. Well, he took me down to the water, all right. There's a big flat rock, water was running, but it had ice on that water. It wasn't, good thing it wasn't thick, but I stuck my hand in there so I could crack the ice. Boy, that was cold. Boy, I told my dad, I said, Dad, I don't want to be no medicine man. Now that made him mad then. It really made him mad. Then he said, no, the water's not cold. He said, touch it. So I did. I turned around, started putting my hand down there. He gave me a shove, and into the water I went. I did the same thing that what my grandma did. He did. The words were different, but the meaning was the same. Had the 4 rocks. But as I started to get out, and I raised up, boy, that wind hit is cold. I sat back down there, the water up to my chin. He told me to get out, let's go home. I wouldn't get out then. I said, no, it's cold. The wind was there. Every time the wind hit, I started to get out, the wind hit. I sat back in that water. I said, no. It made him mad. Boy, he really got mad then. Boy, he jumped in there. He grabbed me by the seat of my pants. Boy, he walked straight across the creek with me. And then he said, we're going home. I used to tease him about that. I said, you got in that water with me too, didn't you? I'll back up a little bit. I mentioned the origin of our medicine. The red roots that we have here, in our tribe is known as the blood of life. There is a story told about a holy man that taught this young man that someday he would take his place. This holy man could heal by touch. But he told this young man that you will never heal by touch. But you will be provided with what you will need on this Mother Earth. After everything that he was taught, this holy man said, that his job was done, that it was time for him to leave. This holy man had a place, what we call sacred ground. The sacred ground that the medicine people have and had in the old days is where they would communicate with the Creator. They also draw their strength from there. We said we meditate. We do a lot of things in that square. But this holy man said that if you ever need me, He said, remember that I will always be with you. We believe in that very strongly. My parents told me the same thing. He said, if you're in trouble, if you think that some things that is very hard for you, he said, we'll be there. Let me give you an example of some things that, a while ago I said there's some things I haven't used for 20, 30 years. I have come across some things that I have never used, yet I knew how to do it. There are more than one ways to do some things. So I would make up my mind that, hey, this is the way I'm going to do it. I go to sleep at night. If it's the chant that I was going to use, if it's my mother's side or dad's side, it depends on which chant that I'm figuring on using. I could hear their voice in my dream. He said, no, use this. He said, you will get it done a lot faster. And I have changed to what I was told in my dream. So this man, the holy man, was telling this young man the same thing, that he would always be with him. But there was great sickness in the tribe. This young man tried to heal by touch. It didn't work. He was beginning to kind of panic because there were more people getting sick, and he didn't know what to do. But then he remembered what the holy man said. He said, if you trouble, he said, come back to the ground, to the sacred ground. You will find your answer. The time that man that was leaving, I said, we call this as blood of life. When he was leaving that boy, he said, my job is done. That I have to leave you. But he held up his hand toward the east. And he said, this is blood of life. And the blood started coming out of his hand, which made a pool of blood on the ground. But he was satisfied that he had somebody to carry on. But yet he was sad. The tears began to fall from, and it also made a little pool with tears. So this young man went back to the sacred ground that he was told to go to when he was troubled, or he'll find an answer there. He went back and he sat down. He saw the two plants there, the unusual plant that he had never noticed before. So he dug under one plant. And he began to wash this off. And the water started turning red. Then he remembered that plant was growing right where the pool of blood that was dripped at one time. So he dug under the other one. And then he washed the roots of that. But it never did turn color. This does not give off color. This the red root does. This is just an example I brought along. You can smell it if you want to. Okay, open it, you pass it around. You'll see what it smells like. That one. But this has no smell. So he took the roots and he cured the people. So that is our main medicine for the Creek, for our Creek people. The other tribe also use it. The Five Civilized has always used those. So that everything that we do today, and many times that we baffle the most educated people, it's something that we inherit. To me, it's a gift from our Creator. The selection process is very strict. As I said earlier, when I took that medicine in my mouth and I drank that the day that I was born, a few seconds after I was born, that my family had to know what kind of person that I would be. They had to know if I would ever misuse these sacred words. If I could pass the test then, that I would have been through. I mean, they would never fool with me. But there was a potential there. But they had to know what I would be like 60 years from the time that they were trying me out. Would I ever misuse it? The reason they have to know is that for every good chance that you give to do good, but you also give in one just as destructive. So a main medicine man can destroy or he can heal. There's advantage to carriers or the specialists, the ceremonial ground priests. Like I said a little earlier, they don't have to be initiated. A carrier sort of have an advantage over the main medicine people. Because if you have the right candidate, you can teach them nothing but good. You do not have to teach them anything bad. You can give them everything that's good that you can cure people with. So they do have advantage over the main medicine people. We try to live our life as pure as possible. That's where our strength lies, of how we handle our medicine. I talk about a little bit about the sacred ground. I will show you what's involved. Every ground that we have 4 sticks that are in a square at each corners of our sacred ground. When we take 4-day fast, when I say 4-day fast, that means no sleep, eat, drink, nothing for 4 days. This is where we go, within a square. During our annual 4-day purification that we go through, I mentioned a little bit earlier that some of these scholars, most educated people with a PhD, they have doubt about our work. As I said a little bit earlier, they said over time, times have changed. Some have said that maybe he's forgotten. Now that make me mad when they question me. I say, hey, they don't live the life I do. They don't know anything about medicine that I go through, that I know. But we pick out the year that we want to go back through. There is times that I go back, watch myself being born, see my dad, my grandmother giving me the medicine and working with me. And maybe the following year, I go back to the time that my grandmother would take me out and train me, what the plant looked like. But maybe the following year, I go back to the time that they're telling me the stories, the origin of our plants. And then there's time that I go back where all these words, the sacred words, is being given to me. So you see, that's why I said that they don't know what we go through. They don't even know what we know. They don't even know why we don't forget. We can go back in time of what we want to see about ourselves. I've gone back more time where the words were given. It's just like watching a TV. You sit there, and yet you see your grandmother sitting there talking to you, and you're a little boy. The words that I've heard when I was little, they go back the whole thing. Live the, kind of relive your life again. You watch yourself. All these things given to you. There are many stories that I could tell and will never have time for that. So I just wanted to share some of the things that the medicine people go through, their training, what is expected of them. But we also have a sweat. Our main medicine men always have a sweat. You've heard about other sweat that are located around here, Dallas. I do not go and take part in their sweat. I've been asked. I said, no, that's your sweat. There's a reason for that. I am forbidden to go the type of sweat that they go through. I have my own sweat for a purpose. This is where it's built close to the water. When we have our sweat, when I have mine, I use the chants that I've learned while I'm sitting in there. I sing my songs in there. The steam that comes off a hot coal, the rocks, as we sing, it purifies our words to keep us strong, which we wash the sacred words to keep them clean. I went to my dad's sweat one time. He had the rocks piled up. They were glowing red. And he was ready to go in. And then he asked me. He asked me to say, hand me the hottest rock. But I never did hesitate. I never did question him. I didn't question my parents. I reached in there. I've always remember I touched one. I've always remember moving one, and I grabbed one. The rock was heavier, about to knock me over. I took both hands. I took a rock. I turned around. I said, Dad, this is the hottest rock. But it never did burn me. But he was also testing me of everything that I've been taught, that I have that enough belief and follow in his instruction. He had to know. He had to know if I really believed in what we had. Because if I was afraid of that rock, then there probably would have been doubt. But I never did hesitate. That's something I've always remembered, that I took a rock out of there and said, hey, this is the hottest rock. And then when I think back, the thing that I've been taught, even anything that's hot that we're going to handle, we can cool it off and never get burned. Now, I'll tell you a little bit about Dr. Jordan says, cut it off, it's time. Well, I want to thank you for inviting me, and Dr. Jordan. We never did get to go into some of these over here, but maybe next time. Maybe she'll invite me back. I want to thank you for your time. But